We are just bombarded every single day with claims about, well, everything. Miracle drugs, new diets, the best way to run a country. So how in the world do you sort the facts from the fiction? Well, today we're going to crack open a really powerful toolkit from philosophy. It's called Epistemology. And don't worry, it's not some dusty academic thing. It's a super practical guide for all of us to navigate this maze of information and figure out what's actually true.
So let's just start with the biggest question of all, right? How do you know that something you believe is actually true? I mean, it sounds simple, but if you really stop and think about it, it's one of the biggest challenges we face every single day.
Okay, imagine this. You're scrolling online and you see an ad just like this one. A huge promise, something that could literally change millions of lives. It sounds amazing, doesn't it? A revolutionary drug with minimal side effects. Your gut reaction might be hope, or maybe you're a little skeptical. But how do you get past that first feeling and really truly evaluate a claim like this?
And that right there, that's the dilemma of belief we all find ourselves in. We get hit with a claim and we have to decide, do I buy it? Do I ignore it? Or do I need to dig a little deeper? And this isn't just about ads. It's about news headlines, political promises, even the latest scientific breakthroughs.
So what do? Well, it turns out philosophy has been working on this exact problem for centuries. And it gives us a structured way to think, a set of tools designed specifically to put claims to the test and figure out if our beliefs are justified. Think of it like your own personal toolkit for finding the truth.
So this toolkit, it's built on 4 main ideas, sometimes called the tests of truth. Each one gives us a completely different angle to look at a claim and see if it actually holds up to scrutiny. Let's break them down one by one.
First up, we've got the coherence test. This is all about logic. It's about consistency. Does this new information make sense with everything else you already know to be true? Does it contradict solid established facts? Think of it like a puzzle piece. If the new piece fits neatly, that's a good start.
Next is the correspondence test. Okay, this is where we roll up our sleeves and look for the evidence. Does the claim actually match reality? Can we see it? Can we measure it? Is there any data to back it up? This test demands that a claim lines up with the cold, hard facts.
Then there's the pragmatic test. This one is super practical, just like the name says. It asks a simple question. What happens in the real world if this claim is true? Does it actually solve a problem? Does it produce useful results? Bottom line, does it work?
And finally, we have the consensus test. Because look, none of us can be experts on everything. So this test asks a crucial question. What do the experts in the field think? Has this idea been debated and tested by people who've dedicated their lives to this topic?
Okay, so we have our 4 tools: coherence, correspondence, pragmatic, and consensus. Now for the fun part. Let's actually put this toolkit to work and see how it handles a few really big claims. Let's put truth on trial.
Let's circle back to that miracle drug from the ad, Depressoban. So the claim is, it's super effective for depression and it has minimal side effects. Instead of just taking their word for it, let's run it through our 4 tests.
And this is where the toolkit just shines.
Okay, let's break it down. First, coherence. The idea that a drug can affect mental health? Yeah, that's totally consistent with modern medicine. But the minimal side effects part? That should raise a little red flag. It kind of clashes with what we know about powerful medications. Next, correspondence. This means we need to see the data. What was the sample size of their study? Was there a placebo group? Were the results actually statistically significant? The pragmatic test makes us ask, does it work? Better than what's already out there? What's the cost? What's the real impact on a person's quality of life compared to other treatments? And finally, consensus. We can't just trust the company that makes the drug. What do other independent doctors and researchers say? We need those peer reviews and larger studies to confirm it. So the toolkit works great for a medical claim, but can it handle something bigger? Something way more abstract? Let's scale up and apply these same 4 tests to a huge idea in political science.
Let's test this massive claim. Democracy is the best form of government. Whoa, that is a huge statement, one people have been fighting over for thousands of years. But our 4 tests, they give us a calm, structured way to analyze it.
All right, let's run it through the system. Coherence? Well, the idea of democracy lines up really well with principles most of us value, like equality, the rule of law, individual liberty. So it passes that test pretty well. But when we get to correspondence, the real-world evidence gets messy. Empirically, sure, democracies often deliver a lot of freedom, but the evidence also shows they can lead to corruption or even a tyranny of the majority. Pragmatically, does it work? Well, it's great at allowing for peaceful transitions of power, but it can also be incredibly inefficient and really depends on having a smart, engaged public. And consensus? There's a pretty strong agreement among political scientists that it's one of the best systems we've come up with, but they're also the first to point out all of its serious flaws.
Okay, so our toolkit works for a drug and it works for politics, but how about we get a little meta? What if we turn these tools on one of the biggest ideas in philosophy itself?
So here's our next claim. Empiricism is the most reliable way to acquire knowledge. Now, empiricism is basically the idea that all real knowledge comes from our senses, from what we can see, hear, and measure. It's the foundation of the scientific method. So, how does it hold up under its own kind of scrutiny? Let's run the tests. Coherence. Empiricism is perfectly consistent with the scientific method. It is the scientific method, but it directly clashes with other philosophies, like rationalism, which says reason alone can be a source of knowledge. Correspondence. The evidence for empiricism's success is overwhelming. Just look at centuries of scientific and technological progress, but it's pretty useless for things like ethics or morality. You can't put kindness under a microscope. Pragmatically, it is incredibly effective for understanding and manipulating the natural world, but it can totally neglect the emotional or ethical side of things. And for consensus, you've got a rock-solid consensus in the scientific community, but way less agreement in fields like philosophy or the arts. And see, that's the crucial takeaway here. The toolkit doesn't just give you a yes or a no. It shows you that even a powerful idea has its strengths and its blind spots.
So, we've put a drug, a form of government, and even a whole branch of philosophy on trial. After all that, what's the big takeaway here? What's the point?
It's this. You now have a simple but incredibly powerful framework for thinking critically. You can boil these 4 big ideas down to 4 simple questions. Coherence. Does it make sense? Correspondence. Is there any evidence? Pragmatic. Does it actually work? And consensus. Do the experts agree?
And that is the whole point of this. This isn't just some abstract exercise for academics. This is a practical, hands-on toolkit that you can use every single day. When you read a news article, when you listen to a politician's speech, even when you're just deciding whether to try a new diet. It empowers you to go beyond just gut feelings and make decisions that are informed and justified.
So, I'll leave you with this question. Now that you're armed with this new toolkit for truth, think about the world around you. Think about all the claims that are thrown at you every day. What's the next big claim that you're going to put to the test?